This is the Power Break Podcast, number 157, titled, Where Are Those Who Would Be Like Barnabas? Hi, everyone. I'm Bob Brubaker, along with JT, as we hope you'll stay tuned as we seek to give you a little power in this break to help you succeed in the race of life.
This is the Power Break Podcast with a focus on the spiritual, the mental, and the physical aspects, all to help you succeed in the race of life. For show notes from today's podcast, go to bobbrubaker.com and follow the link for the Power Break Podcast. What's going on with you, man?
Well, always looking forward to recording with JT, but man, I sure miss you around here. Wish you were here to ride with me and get me going again. So
yeah, me and you both, man. I've had such a gift up here, being able to ride with my son all the time, and it is such a blessing. But man, I miss you, buddy. I got to figure out a way to pull you up here. It's the Bible Belt up here. You'd probably get some action up here if you threw your name in the hat.
Yeah, I think there's a big ride in the fall up there. I think that one of the pro riders has a ride there. Anyway, not this year, but maybe in the coming years we'd be able to squeak up a few days and get up there to see you. And North Carolina. We miss having JT here in Florida, but we're connected by, I guess, the internet.
It really is the internet, man. What an invention they got there.
Yeah, and we're able to record and actually been impressed as long as we don't have technical blips that we've had a few times. But nevertheless, it almost sounds like you're right here in the studio with me. How do you like that?
Yeah, man, technology is all right. I have to apologize to the listeners about that one when I had some software issues, and it's the one that was just posted this Tuesday. It sounds like I'm in a stadium far, far away. So I have to apologize for that. There was normally I use some software, and what it does is it really makes my voice more present. Because my recording studio, for lack of a better way to put it, is all wood. So there's a lot of reflections, and you can sound like you're pretty far away. So I apologize for that. And speaking of viewers, I think we're going to thank them anyway, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, we just want to thank everybody for listening to the Power Break Podcast. Thanks for tuning in today, and thanks for telling others about the Power Break Podcast, and also letting people know wherever you download the podcast with ratings and reviews that you appreciate us providing this service on a weekly basis called the Power Break Podcast.
Yep. I say it every week how I'm astonished, but man, I am so grateful. I mean, all of our numbers continue to go up, and it just keeps us encouraged. And I think that's going to lead us right into our topic today. Barnabas, the encourager.
Yeah, Barnabas. The title, of course, today is Where Are Those Who Would Be Like Barnabas? Barnabas, of course, is synonymous with Mr. Encouragement. We'll talk more about that. But, JT, let's just talk about people in your life. Who has been like a Barnabas to you?
I've had a lot of people throughout my life. When I was younger, being in a family where there wasn't a father present, I look throughout my history, and there were so many men, usually in the form of like a baseball coach or a football coach or a teacher, who really kind of stepped up and were the encouragers in my life. Obviously I had my mother, who was an awesome encourager and always, just really pushing you to be your very best. But, when I was younger, there was so many people, that were coaches. And then, as I got older, I tried to be that for other people. And right now my biggest encourager is my wife, Amy. And she encourages me, and then I pass that on to encourage the kids. And, it's, I mean, it's a big deal to be encouraging to other people, especially in this really negative world. You know what I mean? I mean, how about you? Who's the big encourager in your life, buddy?
Well, I have to say this. This kind of sounds weird, but you've probably heard of the famous preacher A.W. Tozer. When I was a real small infant or little guy, Tozer really, he was in our house a number of times when I grew up, and also different pastors over my lifetime have encouraged me, and really thankful for various and sundry professors when I was in seminary. And, it's interesting how other ministers, since I've been in the ministry, have been encouragements. That's always good. And, and people like you, JT, that have come along beside me, and we train together and, of course, play off each other as far as encouraging each other. And as we're going to talk about today, if you want some encouragement from others when you seek to be like Barnabas, it somehow comes back at you.
Boy, does it ever. Yeah, no truer words. Pastor Chris down in at Skycrest in Florida, he used to say all the time, we by encouraging others, we have always found in our life that we're encouraged in return. So a lot of people lose that. You get so self-centered on trying to make yourself happy that you really don't spend as much time trying to encourage others as you should, and then you wonder why you're kind of self-centered and miserable.
That's right.
It should be a guess.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the point is, it doesn't take much to be an encourager. It's something we can all do because we all need it. It just takes stepping out of our comfort zone to reach out to someone and give them an encouraging word. It's kind of like Proverbs says in Proverbs 18, verse 24 in the King James, it says, "A man that has friends must show himself to be friendly. And there is a friend that sticks closer than a brother."
Ah, that's awesome.
Talking about encouragement today, and who would be like Barnabas?
Yeah, let's continue to talk more about that as we turn to your blog. Folks, if you haven't been to BobBrubaker.com, as always, I would tell you to get over there, check out the resources, and at the very least, sign up for the blog. It's free. MailChimp, man, always knocks it out of the park, gets it there nice and early on Monday. I used to think that Bob was the one sending it that early, but it come to find out you have that automatically set. But you still get it.
Actually, it is automatic, but I have to send it up there, and I usually do when I get up, not to brag or anything, because it's not a bragging thing. I wish I could sleep past 4 o'clock in the morning, but I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, usually on Mondays, and send it up to the MailChimp, and he sends it on the way. So
there he is, that MailChimp, man. We're knocking it out of it. Yeah, I wish you could sleep past 4 o'clock too. You're making me tired just thinking about that. Anyway, let's continue to talk more about that as we turn to your blog.
As I wrote this blog, I remember the time that I sat with a friend a while back, and he made an interesting observation and said, "Where are those who would be like Barnabas today?" The thought of that really kind of triggered my mind to think of how we could all use a person like that, of how nice it would be to have someone in our corner, so to speak, that encourages us like Barnabas did. As we see in the book of Acts, everyone needs someone like Barnabas in their life, especially today when we're, as JT mentioned, we're flooded with critics all around us. It seems people, even Christians, are on the sidelines waiting to pounce on you just about anything at all. It's almost like the sport of choice to criticize others. How sad then to criticize and pile on a person who makes a mistake or is cast down. Indeed, where are those who would step up and to be like Barnabas today? So let's take a look at this man named Barnabas in the Bible and see if we can learn a few things about him. First of all, he's described in the book of Acts as the son of encouragement. When people were coming to the church when it was first established, we find in Acts chapter 4, there was a Levite who sold all that he had, laid it at the feet of the apostles, and came and served the Lord. Well, they named him, actually, his name is Joseph, but they renamed him, kind of a nickname for him was Barnabas, which means son of encouragement.
Love it.
Well, what's that?
I just said I love it. Your personality is so distinct that they actually rename you to be more consistent with your personality. I love it.
That's exactly right. And then in Acts chapter 9, when Paul, after has the experience on the road to Damascus, and then he's in Damascus and goes off to Arabia for a while and comes back. And anyway, he's finally cast out of Damascus, and he comes to Jerusalem and wants to align himself with the believers. But all they can remember is that this guy was tormenting the church, and he had many people persecuted, and nobody wanted to have anything to do with him. Well, who steps up but Barnabas, and brings him to the apostles and says, this guy's been changed. We need to take care of him, okay? And we need to take him in. And they did, and so Barnabas was an encouragement. Later on, when Barnabas hears what's going on in another area that at the church in another area, that he goes and seeks out Paul at that time was known. He brings him to that church, and then they go off on a missionary journey. Well, then they go off on the second missionary journey, Paul and Barnabas, and there was a guy by the name of John Mark who wanted to go with him. He happens to be the nephew of Barnabas, and Paul doesn't want to have anything to do with him because he'd been on the missionary journey before, and things got a little tough, and he took off and went back to Jerusalem. So who stands up for him but Barnabas? So we get the feeling like Barnabas is a guy that's there for encouragement and helps out the guy that seems to be cast down. Could you use a little person like that? Not a little person, but he's a big person. How could you use someone like that in your corner? That's the question.
Yeah, I mean, all of us could definitely use somebody like that because really, a lot of times we just don't give each other a break. I know personally that, oftentimes when people make mistakes or there's some kind of issue going on, all they need is a second chance. And a lot of times people will learn from that mistake. I'll bring out a granny saying for you because we haven't done that in a while.
All right. And now, ladies and gentlemen, a word from Granny.
She actually used to say all the time, she's like, if you fool me once, shame on you. If you fool me twice, shame on me. Actually, if you fool me twice, shame on you again. And then if you fool me 3 times, shame on me. And she used to just say that all the time because, she used to believe that people, if they made a mistake, you could usually genuinely figure out whether they felt bad about it and they changed the way they were going to perform just by looking at, we can all tell when people are being sincere or not, right? So, but a lot of times we're just very unforgiving. So we don't give people that second chance. And man, I love how God turns that around on Paul.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right. Well, not just Paul, but also John Mark, who, as he was known. He ended up writing the Gospel of Mark and is very close to the Apostle Peter in his ministry. And then even Paul, when he comes down to the end of his ministry, as he talks about people in his life in 2 Timothy chapter 4, he mentions that bring John Mark because he's profitable. So anyway, it's interesting how the things changed and what happened. Well, Barnabas stepped in his corner. So the question is, if you could use a person like Barnabas, what are you doing about it? Someone who will defend you in the midst of when you're surrounded by critics. Well, if you want a Barnabas in your corner, be that for someone else. If you take up the mantle of Barnabas and stand by your friends, pointing them to the one who sticks closer than a brother, of course, that's the Lord Jesus Christ, You'll soon realize that people are around you will also be encouraging you as they seem to be taking up the mantle of Barnabas too. Well, check it out. It's the blog that's titled, Where Are Those Who Would Be Like Barnabas? You'll find it at bobbrubaker.com.
So what else is happening, Bob? Any news this week we need to know about?
Well, I thought I would talk about the book that we have available on my website called Strength Training for Your Love Life. And it's interesting, JT, you mentioned that the Barnabas in your life right now seems to be your beloved wife, Amy, as she's in your corner encouraging you. And that's exactly what the book is about, that strength training for your love life, not just the encouragement, but other things. And actually, it's a 40-day challenge. I think we added even a few more days. Anyway, strength training for your love life. You'll find it at the resources at bobbrubaker.com. Scroll through those resources to the books. It's a blue cover with Jan and myself on the cover, and it's called Strength Training for Your Love Life at bobbrubaker.com. And while you're there, check out the sermon links to the sermons I preach here at Christ Community Presbyterian Church in Clearwater. Still going through the sermon series, as we call the summer series in Psalms, and what good material it is. Those Psalms are really good.
Yeah, Psalms, it really doesn't get any better than that when it comes to biblical knowledge and life knowledge and, just God speaking through David. It's just awesome stuff.
it's good stuff because it's good theology and it's good just practical things, and actually the psalm I'm going through this week as we record this will be Psalm 69, and that happens to be a lament, and laments are part of our life, and somehow we have lost the ability to lament in life because everybody wants to sound happy and joyful all the time. But life is not like that, and that's why we love the Psalms, because they're real.
They are.
Real people. And David is lamenting and giving us a great picture as he gives us a picture of Christ on the cross.
So good, man. So good. Well, this is the Power Break Podcast, and I'm JT along with Bob Brubaker, and this is the time for questions and answers on the podcast. If you have a question for me or Bob, feel free to submit that question by email to jt@bobbrubaker.com, and we'll get to answering that on an upcoming Power Break podcast. Are you ready for question number 1 from the spiritual side, my friend?
Yeah, sounds good, JT. It's good to be recording with you, that's for sure.
Oh, I agree, man, completely. So why is it so important for us to strive to be like Barnabas? And we've already touched on this, but man, I don't think this is a point that you can drive home too much.
All right, several reasons here. First of all, let's review what made Barnabas so special. His name means son of encouragement, or you might say encourager. He was known for coming along beside others and standing up for them and offering them words and some solid encouragement. So just stop and think about that. First of all, it's important to be like that because, even in the book of Romans, the Apostle Paul says we're to rejoice with those who rejoice and to weep with those who weep. We're to come along beside people in the church and others that we see. It's a great ministry right there. Well, secondly, we know people. Actually, do you know of anybody that could not use some encouragement?
Oh, for sure, yeah. I'd like to meet that guy.
Yeah, we all need encouragement. And the third is the Bible is clear that when we encourage each other, especially those who are down, because in doing so, we are doing the work of the Lord, as He's the real encouragement behind our encouragement as we seek to encourage or comfort others. Now, 2 Corinthians chapter 1, it says, "Blessed be the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of mercies, the God of all comfort or encouragement, who comforts us in all our afflictions, so that we may be able to comfort those who are in any affliction with a comfort with which we ourselves are comforted by God." In Romans chapter 12, verse 15, it mentioned, "Rejoice with those who rejoice and weep with those who weep." Now, the bottom line is that we treat others the way we would like to be, or we need to be treated. And so think about it. We need encouragement, and so we encourage others, and it comes right back at us because that encouragement flows to others, but it also comes back at us.
Yeah, one of the things that just always sticks out for me is, especially in this time of COVID, I made the mistake of reading the news yesterday, and
I know.
I'm like broken now.
JT's been tainted by the news.
Well, just people are freaking out still about COVID, and it never seems to be something that goes away in the news. And now there's the Delta variant and the Lambda variant, and there's all kinds of scary words being used. And what ends up happening, though, is that we become absent in each other's lives, and we kind of decorate that with the badge of, I'm trying to be safe. But man, when you're not present in other people's lives, you can't be Barnabas, and you won't have a Barnabas either. And man, what a horrible place to be. I've thought a lot about that with COVID, and kind of COVID becoming the thing where people look at each other as a possible enemy because you may have it and give it to me. And, it really is important for us. I mean, obviously I want people to feel safe, but it's so important for us to stay connected and be present for each other as far as the church is concerned. And that's church attendance. That's making sure that you're going to small groups. That's making sure that you're surrounding yourself with other people that are like-minded, because you want a Barnabas in your life, and I think you need one, which is why God shows that example over and over again in Scripture, right?
No, that's exactly right, JT. That's a good point, because I even heard, I haven't seen all the details, but somewhere in the world there's a world leader that actually told people in the country that they serve not to have anything to do with anyone else. Now, isn't that pitiful?
Wow, that's
because
awful.
At a time when people are really discouraged, as we saw from all the lockdowns last year, that people get very discouraged. And obviously you can reach out by telephone or text or in other ways, but nothing like the one-on-one, face-to-face, and being able to encourage one another with words of encouragement and just being there for one another.
Yeah, we have to be. It's so important. And I think, we need to it's very easy to kind of make somebody in your mind be your enemy when you don't know anything personal about them.
Oh, that's right.
You and I ran into that a lot when we were riding bikes on the road. It was really simple. It wasn't personal. We were just some guy on a bike on the side of the road. So, people easily got angry at us because we were taking up too much space, or I don't know. We had the nerve to invade their world. But
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, we need to look at each other for what we are, which is we are all children of God. And that makes us want to be encouraging to one another instead of looking at each other as, competition or somebody that's in my way. It's so broken the way we look at each other. Let's move on to question number 2 from the mental aspect. So what does encouraging others do for us mentally? And I think, I was starting to go towards that, which is why I wanted to transition to that.
Well, it is, because just like as we've pointed out, the necessity of gratitude in our lives, because it really does encourage us and bring us out of the pit naturally, our pit, way we are thinking just by being grateful. So does encouragement. It blesses not only others with your encouragement, it blesses yourself, because you cannot give without receiving, even though that's not your intention. But listen to what it says in the book of Luke chapter 6. Jesus says, "Give, and it shall be given to you, good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put into your lap, for with the measure that you use, it'll be measured to you back." Isn't that good?
God, so good, yeah.
We seek to be an encouragement to others, and what happens, it just flows right on back to us, even in a greater measure.
Yep.
That's why, you've probably heard the example of someone that really was fearful of going to visit someone in the hospital or a nursing home, and they prayed about it, and they went there, and they sought to be an encouragement to that person. And whether that person said anything encouraging or not, it seems like a person leaves from that situation saying, wow, that was really an encouraging thing to do.
Yeah, for sure. How many times in your life, probably you as a pastor, and as a police officer, it was the same way. And it was only because my profession and your profession, it's about people. That's what our profession is about. So how many times have I, been like a year away from an interaction with somebody and have them say, "Hey, I just wanted to thank you for that because you were so encouraging and you were so positive, that really made a difference."
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a good thing. A lot of times though, encouragers, and I don't know if we were going to talk about this or not, sometimes you need to be careful that you're not over extending yourself to get in situations where you can easily get hurt, and that will make you unencouraging, so you have to kind of protect yourself a little bit. But
you have to be wise.
Yeah.
You have to be wise.
Yeah.
But you never go wrong with an attitude of really seeking to be there for someone else.
Yeah, for sure. I agree completely. All right, so let's turn to question number 3, which is from the physical aspect of life. And you and I were talking about this a little bit before we went on air. So let's talk about the importance of rest, and in particular sleep, which I didn't get a good night's rest last night, and it's probably showing in my performance today. But how important does rest and sleep factor into our training and our physical goals?
It's interesting you say that, JT, about the lack of sleep last night and how it affects you, because there have been studies on that. They actually did a study of people having a lack of REM sleep, and their memory was shot for the next day. And
that's
anyway,
awful.
It's an interesting study that they've come around. But it is big time, the rest and sleep factor. You can have the greatest training plan to make great strides, but if your rest and your sleep are not factored in, you'll hit a plateau and not go any further. That's why I use this thing called Whoop, because I realize so many times I have neglected this part of my life, both rest and sleep, not taking days off like I should. And then, even on days off, sometimes I don't intend to, but I end up burning the candle at both ends. Maybe it's because I can't sleep past 4 o'clock, and sometimes I stay up late for reasons of ministry, or sometimes just because I can't go to sleep. But anyway, getting more sleep is very important. So that very thing, they have some suggestions, like making sure you have a dark room. It's interesting that if you really take an assessment of the room in which you sleep, there's probably some light, and they say that even if a clock has blue light, that's helping you stay awake. Even a clock should have red light. Red lights don't affect you like blue lights. And of course, speaking of blue lights, the blue light from screens, be it the television, be it your iPhone or whatever it is, your phone, your tablet, whatever it is, that's a blue light coming, and that tells your body to wake up. So you need some downtime. And they also say, I've found this to be true, and sometimes I just don't want to take the time to do it, but they say a hot bath or hot shower in the nighttime actually slows your body down and ready to sleep.
Wow, that's interesting with the hot shower. I know the cold shower has always had the exact opposite effect for me, so I guess that
that'll wake you up. You don't want to do cold showers.
Boy,
that time.
does it ever! Yeah, but, I guess
one.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry to cut you off here, JT. There's this time gap, folks, that we are putting up with, and we're trying to learn that between Clearwater, Florida, and Asheville, North Carolina, we're somewhere in between here. That there's must be a tie-up in the line or something, because sometimes
that's for sure, yeah.
We don't. Yeah. Anyway, what were you saying?
Oh, I was just going to talk about when I worked midnights, how much it affected my body.
Yeah.
It was not fun, but those so many different tricks, wearing an eye cover, I guess it was like a sleeping eye cover that
makes the room dark.
Yeah, but it turned everything dark.
Yeah, it makes the room dark.
Also, I actually had a friend that put tin foil on his windows, and I don't know if I recommend that because it makes you look crazy, but
look like they wanting the aliens to come around.
Yeah, exactly. Like he was trying to contact the mother planet or something. But he was able to sleep. There's all kinds of different things, but man, there's study after study that says that you shouldn't be on a midnight shift for too long. And I have seen that personally, like people's personality literally change, because they have been on midnight shift for too long. Guys who were courteous and kind turned mean and cold, and, kind of the last person you wanted to respond to your call for service because they were grumpy when they got there,
sleep deprivation does a lot to your personality, and in a negative way, and as well as I mentioned before, even in your memory. One of the things I found, JT, is that if I neglect supper, sometimes that'll happen, if I neglect supper, I'll suffer through the night. I won't sleep well.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah,
just mark that down. Don't ever.
Yeah, I think everybody's different too, to a certain extent. Some people can tolerate less sleep, and some people need more. And but overall, it's really important for us to pay attention to that, because I'm like you. I'll overtrain if I have an opportunity, mostly because I enjoy training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if we don't take time off, and if we neglect our sleep factor, we will pay the price. Well, it takes discipline to make sure we get it in, and as we mention each week, discipline makes the difference in all aspects of life. Check out today's show notes at bobbrubaker.com. Click on the Power Break podcast. Today is show number 157.
And submit your questions by email to jt@bobbrubaker.com and listen for Bob's answer on an upcoming Power Break podcast.
Quick word for the Strength Training for Your Love Life, the book that my wife Jan and I put together. It's really a 40-day challenge, but it also includes some ideas and some helps that we have after, I guess, 47 years of marriage. Here we are. But anyway, Strength Training for Your Love Life, check it out at bobbrubaker.com.
Thank you for joining us for the Power Break Podcast. Please subscribe and leave a review wherever you've downloaded the podcast, and check out show notes, news, Bob's weekly blog, and other cool things at bobrubaker.com. Listen next time for the Power Break Podcast.